the story the political world has been buzzing about.
Speaking to a mostly white crowd in Michigan Friday, Trump urged African Americans,
"Why do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed."
I moved on her like a bitch. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the I can do anything.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. DJ Hammer, don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Yeah, don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. The Nazis didn't lose, they adapted. Plus, Hitler was financed by American capitalists, anti-Semites and white nationalists. Hire Steve Bannon as the campaign strategist. Identify the activists, label them extreme. Tell them Rosa hit the road, get that Ben Winch off the team. It's about the green and giving it to the rich. Robert Mueller puts the pressure, trying to find a snitch. It's like Rockefellers, turn Carter's page. Back to the Nixon era, you know Watergate. Now we in like Flynn, hold down the Manafort. He tried to ban Muslims, thank God for higher courts. Dude is just evil, taxes unbelievable, and we never got to see is like them shits is unretrievable. Is it even feasible when everything is just for views? He can release his own taxes, then tweet his fake news. His name is Donald, and Fred ain't raised no wussy. He ain't no Billy D, so he just grabs him by the pussy. As for allegation, there's 16 open cases. Since before Central Park 5, we knew he was racist and sexist. The clown is reckless. The fool is at the button playing with a death wish. What are we left with? A wall or a fence? A lot of pride before the fall. Hope we don't get stuck with Mike Pence. My name ain't Paul, that is up to y'all. I'm on live for Black Panther, reading the final call. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. That's right. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped.
Yeah, Trump is a disgrace. I mean, how many lies is gonna take? How much time is he gonna make? False statements for each side we gonna place. His behind bars for buying the whole race, and y'all just gonna waste taxpayers' money. For real? While he tweeting and beefing with other countries, we still hungry. Schools getting shut up. He too weak to do anything about it. He truly has divided the whole nation. Blacks even in jail or probation. We all facing the worst administration. Right. Where they sin condone discrimination. We all get impatient. Trump gotta go. So let's impeach him or vote him out the door. One thing's for sure. If you voted for Trump, then you deserve to get your meat lumped.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lumped. Don't Trump. You roll like Trump.
Trump. Dump Trump. Dump Trump. Dump Trump. Dump Trump. Dump Trump.
You know what I mean? Told y'all in 2017, dump Trump. Because I've been following Donald Trump since the Central Park 5. I mean, I knew about Donald Trump prior to the Central Park 5 as this real estate magnate, Trump Tower, and all that. You know, I was still a young boy, didn't really understand the mechanisms of, you know, the world, so to speak. So, you know, Trump meant something, you know, what's the Michael Milken in the movie with Michael Douglas, he's a greed is good, that whole thing, you know, the epitome of Reaganomics, the epitome of capitalism, the epitome of get money, get money. Donald Trump was positioned as the epitome of all that with the Trump Tower. And then I started to pay closer attention with the Central Park 5, with you know, his attack, his buying out ad space in the major newspapers in New York City, calling for their execution, calling them a wolf pack, condemning them and convicting them before there was a trial, before they had their day in court. That whole case being done wrong, and we've since learned the facts of the matter. They were actually innocent and exonerated and won a lawsuit against the city of New York for their false incarceration. And, you know, Donald Trump put money behind that bandwagon to lock Black and brown young boys, 14, 15, 16 years old, locked them up. And so that for me told me what Donald Trump thought about the Black community, specifically Black men. He wanted to see us in cages. He wanted to see us locked up. We don't get the benefit of the doubt. We don't get the benefit of a fair hearing, a fair trial. We don't get the benefit of having the finances to collect the evidence that could clear our names, hire the attorneys that could clear our names. Our communities don't have the respect to even be treated right when it comes in terms of just law enforcement and how they operate in our community. It was some Gestapo-like tactics that were practiced during the Central Park 5 situation, the unfortunate rape and nearly killed a woman in the park. She later survived, but that's horrible what happened to her. And then another set of horrible circumstances followed by NYPD basically invading people's homes to just snatch up anybody. When you see the documentary on the Central Park 5 and the movie, it shows you exactly how we were targeted. Blanket accusations go out, and that makes all Black and brown people suspects. And then if they get their hands on you and run you through the system, the old saying goes, tell it to the judge, tell it to the judge. And when judges and prosecutors have careers to make and careers to build, and everybody believes the guilt of 5 innocent Black and brown boys, then you see where that goes. But then to have later been exonerated, some I guess 20 some odd years later, being found innocent, DNA evidence proving that they had nothing to do with the incident, the actual perpetrator of the incident admitting that it was him and him alone. They were exonerated, and they sued and won their lawsuit. And this all happens before Donald Trump's announcement of his campaign in 2015, 2016, he would win the presidency. But when he was questioned about his buying out ad space in these major media, the newspapers, I believe it was the New York Post and the New York Newsday. If I'm wrong about either, I apologize, but I know it was either one of or both of those newspapers buying out ad space, calling for their execution. He was asked, would he would like to apologize? Was he wrong? And he doubled down and he tripled down. And he said it was a mistake for them to have been released. And he his doubling down, his not being able to admit his mistake, was a clear sign of the personality type that Donald Trump is, the narcissistic tendencies, and also politically, that's a strategy on never say you're wrong, never admit guilt. And you can look up Roy Cohen, who was a mentor and advisor to Donald Trump for many, many years. That was one of the political strategies he would use, strategies he would use in the game of politics and in business, and how he handled he was an attorney for not only Donald Trump and others, but the mafia. So never say you're wrong, never admit guilt. And you see Donald Trump is that. He was built to be the person that he is. So I say all that to say I wanted to start the show off with that song, Dump Trump. Big shout out to my son. Big shout out to DJ Heron, the producer of the track. Big shout out to Benny Boom, who directed the video, Dump Trump. We saw early, and you see all of the hip hop legends at the end of the video. We were trying to put this work down early in 2016, 2017, trying to warn people about, who Donald Trump is, what we know of him, how we seen him operate, and, everything from the grab your pee statement to I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose any support, to I love the poorly uneducated, to mocking handicapped people, mocking veterans, mocking war heroes. Like, come on, y'all. What we doing? What we doing? And then, the first 4 years was something else. That was a clown show at best. We got through COVID, and he said the most ridiculous things in relationship to COVID. We're not going to get into the whole COVID debate, although everybody remember he took the vaccine. He took the vaccine. Just Donald Trump took the vaccine. It's on record. He took the vaccine. All right. So, but we see how he handled, that whole situation as the president and quote unquote leader of the free world, the free, not so free world. He bungled it. The United States had the most deaths per capita than any other country affected by that virus. And, largely due to his mishandling of it. Lies have been exposed when he did the interview with Bob Woodward, who wrote the book on Trump. He admitted earlier in 2020, he knew it was going to be a devastating outcome with this pandemic. And he knew a lot of people were going to die. But publicly, he was telling us it was going to be handled by May. It's going to be under control. He's going to have it all in the wraps. And, it's all these things that were out in the open in terms of him being a liar and him misrepresenting the truth and, him not wanting to admit when he's wrong. And there's a litany of things that us getting to presidency number 2 is like just boggles the mind. It's like, what are we doing, as a nation, as, quote unquote, the American people? What are we doing when we allow these things to happen? And, here we are with ICE. And what we're seeing with ICE is, we tried to tell you in Dump Trump in 2017, the Nazis didn't lose, they adapted. Plus Hitler was financed by American capitalists. Right off the rip, make the connection between his administration, his movement, and the Nazis, because he said he read Mein Kampf. That's what he said. When these bands of Proud Boys and with 1%ers or whatever they're called, and when these bands of people, they show up with the Nazi flag. They show up with the Confederate flag. See, Charlottesville, they will not replace us. Talking about the Jewish community. And they said that. That's not me saying it. They're telling us who they are. And for some reason, we didn't want to take heed and want to listen to this loud and clear. So when we see, ICE, which is nothing but another rendition of the brown shirts, Hitler's brown shirts, people who are, state-run apparatus empowered to run around and snatch people off the street, go car to car, door to door. Like we saw that play. That was Nazi Germany. Where's your papers? We saw this play. That's Nazi Germany. Like we see what it is. The American school system taught me that when you get to a day when you can't walk down the street without having your papers checked, you're living in a fascist state. This is what the American school system taught me, y'all. So, if the American school system is teaching lies, then, that's not what we're saying. That's what the American school system taught us. Not to say that they haven't taught us a lot of lies, but in that, when you get to a point where people are asking you for your papers, you're in a fascist state. And we see where we are right now, where people can't move around without papers. It's a very, very scary time, and, just to draw a bridge as I look at the photo, rest in peace, Alex Preddy, rest in peace, Renee Good, rest in peace, Keith Porter Jr., and all of the Black, white, Latino, Hispanic, Asian folks who have already died at the hands of ICE. It's not a good time, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said, the Nazis didn't lose, they adapted. These are like the stormtroopers. These are the state-sponsored agents who are here to infringe upon your First, Second, Fourth Amendment rights. The rights, the amendments in the Constitution that the right stands on, which is freedom of speech. We can say we want to speak. We get on social media and say all types of crazy freedom. I got the right to say, as an American, I can say. All right, well, they're trying to infringe upon our freedom of speech, ladies and gentlemen. Second Amendment rights, NRA, that whole community, we got the right to bear arms, a well-established militia. We've got the right to stand our ground. We've got the right to carry. Okay, well, you see the brother, Mr. Preddy right here, before he was murdered, being accosted by ICE happened to have a legal firearm on him. He was legal to conceal carry, but even his weapon had nothing to do with why they approached him, had nothing to do with the unfortunate circumstances regarding this man. Rest in peace to him. Salute to him for standing up for the lesser of us, people who can't stand up for themselves. He stood up for them, and the result was his killing. ICE put 10 bullets in his back. And they used the excuse that I'm talking about Kristi Noem, the right, the Donald Trump, well, not so much Donald Trump, but the JD Vances, he had a firearm. Who brings a firearm to a protest? Well, we have plenty of examples of citizens bringing firearms to protests with their finger on the trigger. The McCloskeys, who ended up being keynote speakers at the Republican National Convention. They bought their. I think he had the big gun, and they had the handgun out at a protest, loaded, and got celebrated by the right. You got the what's his name? The young teenager who showed up on the scene at one of the George Floyd protests out in the Midwest with the AR, and he ended up killing 3 people, and didn't spend a day in jail. Didn't get convicted of murder. Actually, I don't think that he was even legally able to possess the AR because he was underage. Kyle Rittenhouse, that's his name, Kyle Rittenhouse. So we see when it's time to move the line of demarcation, they have no problem. They move the goalpost. They have no problem moving the goalpost. When they do it, it's all good. When we do it, talking about the people on the left or who are standing up for their actual constitutional rights, when it's us, then the laws don't apply anymore for some reason, and that's not the case. And we have to stand up for our rights. We have to exercise our rights in order to have rights. We cannot acquiesce our rights. The minute we don't stand on our rights, we no longer have rights. And, these are talking points that I've learned really from the right, the more conservative communities in our country stand on these principles. And they, the libertarians stand on these principles. The Republicans, the right-wing party supposedly stands on these principles until it applies to the masses of Black and brown people. And then there seems to be a problem. We know that there's a huge amount of trepidation of the future and what that means for the state of quote unquote white people in our country, with the birth rate declining in white communities and the birth rate increasing in Black and brown communities, even through all the hardships we go through, all the oppression, the suppression, we seem to produce more than them, and they're worried about their numbers dwindling. In a democracy where the majority rules, that's bad news for minority groups, but that's a whole nother conversation for another time. This picture right here with Kyle Rittenhouse marching alongside of law enforcement with an AR-15. He's a teenager who's not even supposed to be there. He came from another state, across state lines, to show up at a peaceful protest to intimidate and antagonize protesters, would end up killing 3 people. This is what that is relative to or compared to Mr. Preddy, who showed up with a camera in his hand trying to protect the defenseless and his result. And I think it's important to juxtapose, these two sides because as we talked about with the Central Park 5, Black and brown communities, the goalpost has moved. And now the white community is included as well. When you stand on what's right, when you stand on principle, when you stand on what the Constitution actually says and want to see it applied equally to all people, then, you're a target. And that's very, very scary. Stop ICE terror now. We see people all over the world right now protesting what's going on in our country. We're being looked at as a banana republic. We're being looked at as, you know, a third world shithole country, you know, and largely due to the way, you know, this administration is going about their business and how they're treating the American people. You know, everything from stripping away healthcare or trying to strip away healthcare to, you know, the economy and the price of products to the tariffs that are being levied that, you know, ultimately we find out that the American people have to pay for these tariffs. The importing nation doesn't pay the tariff. They pass that tax on to the consumer, which is us, the American people. So ultimately we pay the tax, which means the cost of living is skyrocketing. Technology and the 1%ers of our nation are just eliminating jobs because of you know, not wanting to pay, not wanting to invest in human resource. So all of this is about that. They called Alex a terrorist and said he came to massacre ICE. He came with a camera in his hand and was there, you know, as a reporter as to what was going on. He was documenting, a documentarian. He was documenting what was going on and saw, you know, some women being accosted by ICE, looked to protect them and got sprayed with bear spray in his face. Like, the video shows what's happening, and it's quite frightening when this administration is telling us not to believe our eyes and what we see on camera, on film, and 360 degrees surround sound audio. Like, we see what it is. The same as Renee Good, who was the woman who was murdered in Minneapolis. You know, just another one unfortunate incident where we can all see that this woman wasn't a threat. She even says to one of the ICE officers, "I'm not mad at you." She's looking to get out of their way, and they immediately start to violate her rights. I don't know what amendments these actually or are actually covered, but protected from illegal searches and seizures, where basically somebody can't just enter your domicile, they can't enter your vehicle, law enforcement can't just open your door. That's breaking the law. Like, that's the law says law enforcement, the state, can't just open up your private property. You know, private property is extremely important to, you know, being an American. The idea that we can be safe in our private property, we're not trespassing, we're not violating, we're not loitering, we're not doing anything outside the bounds of our rights. Law enforcement can't just come open your door and attempt to pull you out. So right then and there, they were breaking the law. And what ICE is, how it functions, how they're operating in terms of being immigration police, but they're not doing work at the border. That's a whole nother conversation that I'm not prepared to get into, but I'm sure that they're illegally operating outside their jurisdiction. You know, I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure what ICE is, they are operating outside their jurisdiction, especially when it has to do with questioning, approaching, trying to arrest American citizens. So, yeah. Dump Trump, y'all. This is all the result of us not paying attention and not taking heed to all the warning signs that were there. I seen a farmer, a white farmer, in a post today, you know, basically saying that the farming community has fucked around and found out that, you know, he's sitting on damn near $1 million worth of carrots that he can't get out of the ground because, you know, his workforce has left. They flee. They're out of. They've gone. They can't work because they're afraid of getting, you know, scooped up by ICE. So this farmer, $1 million worth of carrots, is about to go to rot. You know, so this is affecting Americans across the country. All sectors of the American population is being affected, and I think we're, you know, finally we're seeing Republicans, especially with these the last two deaths. We can't forget Keith Porter, and we can't forget about the other Asian and Latino people and Black and white people who have been murdered at the hands of ICE, falsely imprisoned at the hands of ICE. Can't forget about them. Rest in peace to everybody who's had situations and prayers to everybody who's going through something in relationship to ICE. I forgot where I was going with that, but I think you guys get the point. We got to all come together and make things happen. If not before midterms, November 2026 this year. If not before then, definitely then. And we have to figure out ways of securing our elections and people feeling safe to go vote and being able to mail in their vote and know that it's going to arrive and be checked and cleared. We have to create those systems, make sure those systems are in place, because they've been catching wreck, tearing things down over the last year, really over the last 5-6 years with tack on 4 years, 8-9 years with his first term. So we got to reinforce these systems and get it going. Dump Trump. What else we got, Vita? I think Vita stepped away. Hold on one second. Private chat.
I don't know what to say, but I will say that I am probably the president's #1 fan. And that's not going to change. And the hate or what people have to say, it does not affect me at all. It actually motivates me to support him more. And it's going to motivate all of us to support him more. We're not going to let them get away with bullying him and, the smear campaigns. It's not going to work, okay? He has a lot of force behind him, and God is protecting him. Amen.
Well, I will say, the short bus be short bussing. No disrespect to anybody who's taking the short bus, but you know what I mean. You can hear it in her voice. You can hear it in Donald Trump's voice. They're not all there, ladies and gentlemen. These people are out in space, out in a whole nother dimension, a whole nother. They're not here. They're not with us. They're not in the real world. You can hear it in her voice. You can hear how she drags her words, how she slurs. You can see her fumble the ball. We saw her with Erica Kirk fumble the ball when she said that J.D. Vance was a sniper. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. She even had to laugh at herself when you mentioned protected by God. Yeah, because these people, they say the things they think that we want to hear. And there are a lot of people who actually want to hear these things. It's comedy, it's entertaining. They have emotional attachments to some of these celebrities. It's cult of personality. There's a lot of that going on. But to be honest with you, and this is coming from a MC, a rapper, I really don't want to hear from a rapper like that. Not like that. Like yes, all perspectives have some value. Nearly all perspectives have some value. And there's some people, in the hip hop community who have, walked the walk, not just talk the talk. It's not just about having a social media presence, but it's actually doing the right things in the community and building and establishing networks and systems that help people, but to me, rappers, we're the commercial, we're selling you something. We're selling you an idea. I've tried to, commit myself to selling peace, love, unity, safely having fun, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And I guess that's why my career, isn't, we talked about, the dumbing it down of hip hop, and we talk about, appealing to them kids, and the market likes cartoons. Like, they like cartoons. They like people who relate to them on a very base level. People don't really want to think too much, i.e. Nikki Minaj, the Barbies, like a cartoon, a doll, a mindless, brainless thing is what she's marketed and promoted herself as. That's her brand, is to be, the dumb chick. That's Barbie does. She's a doll. She doesn't speak. She's no personality past how you dress her, how you style her, that's the Barbs. That's Barbie mentality. So if she's selling me something 9 times out of 10, Nicki Minaj has not thought much about that thing she's selling me. And if she did think about it, yeah, hey, come on, man. What are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, people are who they are, and we have to take them at who they are. You know, I don't like to see folks who are pushing a political agenda on me, you know, sell me things that I know is destructive, that I know is not good for, you know, our community, not good for young people, not good for, you know, she has connections to sexual assault and pedophilia, and, as time goes on with any artist, save, a few who have really, managed to invest properly and build up a nice financial portfolio that can sustain them when they can't sell records anymore. I don't know. I don't think, Nicki Minaj, she doesn't strike me as somebody who has that kind of, nuanced, business savvy to her to keep it. So, you got to get a check where a check is available. And Donald Trump has proven to, entice people. I don't know if they ever get their check. I don't know if he ever really puts money in people's pockets, but definitely he entices them with the illusion and the promise of so that's what I think about Nicki Minaj and her whole, push toward the Republican Party and Donald Trumpism and, sharing the stage with Erica Curry. She's grifting. She's trying to get $1 and get some favor for maybe some criminal activity that she's connected to or people who are close to her are connected to. Regardless, I don't expect Nicki Minaj to really think deeply about too much. So I think we should take it just like that. Speaking of Nicki Minaj and dump Trump or Donald Trump, Kanye West, who, for a while ran around with a MAGA hat on and loudly proclaimed his support of Donald Trump, even though he, launched a presidential campaign himself that would have had him competing against Donald Trump. That never really made sense to me, that your support of Donald Trump and your push of Donald Trump was so strong, but you yourself is attempting a presidential run. That doesn't make sense, maybe because none of it made sense. And recently, Kanye West apologizes for anti-Semitism in full-page Wall Street Journal ad. He also apologized to the Black community for being disrespectful and saying some very hurtful things about us in regards to slavery, his attachment to the Confederate flag, really, being, him embracing the Nazi mentality. The Nazi wasn't favorable of Black people, y'all. Black people, Africans, original man, whatever we calling ourselves. Nazis wasn't feeling us either, y'all. We were a part of that Holocaust as well, y'all. We got expelled out of Germany too, y'all. Like, I don't know where y'all get this embrace. I'm talking about Black folks. This embrace of Nazism like it's ever pro-Black people, because it is absolutely not. So Kanye being on that side never made sense to me. Now, I know Kanye, I've know him personally, but I wouldn't say I know him. We haven't spent much time around each other, but we have a mutual respect as artists. I met him before the blow up. I saw him on the grind. In terms of him as a producer, as an artist, tremendous amount of respect for him. Before he blew up as Kanye West, the artist, as a producer, of course, he has so many hits with Jay and the whole Rockefeller situation. And his discography is sick as a producer, and him coming out with his, as an artist, he moved the needle, he raised the bar. His artistry is like genius level artistry. Absolutely. However, he's got a streak in him, and I've been in the environment with people who are bipolar, manic depressive bipolar, who have issues. And he reminded me of them. And nothing more reminded me of that is when he made the statements on TMZ about Black people and slavery, choosing slavery. Slavery was a choice. And Van Lathan checked him. And when Van Lathan checked him, you could see Kanye hit a wall. And when he hit a wall, you could you could see this look in his eye that was very familiar to me. And when I saw it, I'm like, well, he told us also on that show, on that TMZ show, that he was on medication and he was off his meds. So I'm like, bro, if you've been diagnosed with a mental illness and you've been prescribed medication and you're off your meds, you're probably not going to be thinking clearly. Back to thinking clearly, having the ability to process, information in a way that's fair, balanced, empathetic. You have to be respectful to where people are coming from. Just because you don't agree with them doesn't mean you do have the right, as long as the Constitution is still in the play. We'll wait and see. But you can say what you want to say, but you should refrain from saying things that are going to ruffle feathers and have people feel disrespected. That's just, and when we talk about Black people, you can have your personal beliefs as a sovereign. You can have your personal beliefs, in terms of, whether we're foundational Black Americans, where we came before, the African. You can have but you have to respect the fact that people have connections to certain bodies of information, and maybe TMZ is not the place to air that out. That's not the most respectful place to air that out, talking about TMZ, and we talk about who owns that content, who owns the platform that you're making an ass out of yourself on. It ties back to the very same people that you seem to have a problem with, which is very bothersome for me, is because you're giving yourself up. You're giving yourself over. When I say giving yourself over, I mean your value, your artistry, you generate finance. We see it through the Adidas deals, the former Nike deals, through your selling your music, to like, bro, you push the needle. And the people that you have a problem with, the Jewish community that you claim to have a problem with, you give yourself over to them. I think the Sway interview was very insightful in that way, when Sway was trying to check him and saying, brother, if you really want to do this, if you really want to break the chains and break free, you have the resources to do it yourself. And he goes, you don't have all the answers. That was again, one of those Van Lathan moments where he hit a wall where all the sense in the world was made, but because he's not in his right mind, he couldn't respond to what just made all the sense in the world. If you're really for the empowerment of Black people, then why don't you start up create an infrastructure in Chicago and put your money down, use your resources. No, you'd rather be with the very same people that you say you got a problem with. That shows a lack of sanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. It's one of the clear signs of insanity. So him telling us now that, this whole time he was off his meds, he wasn't right in his mind, like, I get it. I understand it. I saw somebody else say today they want him to see the work. And I was having a conversation yesterday about that very same point. I want to see Kanye. Now, first of all, get right with himself. First and foremost, get right with Kanye West. Get right with your children, your family, the ones closest to you. First and foremost, get right with the family, right? Yourself, your family. Now, after you do that and you're right with self, do the work that it takes to repair those bridges that you kind of crippled over the last few years. You want to play a video, Vita?
So don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that, because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Every day we have to walk into that truth while you choose to say things that, to be honest with you, dog, are nonsensical. You want to think freely? That's fine. I'll combat your free thought with my free thought because mine is grounded in a reality that I have been given and a reality that I'm going to change, but I'm not going to do it by pretending that the enemies are on the same team as me. And frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real. That's the way I feel. Stand on all the coffee tables you want to stand on, say whatever you want to say, but don't throw a stone, then hide your hand like the rest of us are just going to swallow it. Yay, be yay. I'm off it forever. Do you. But remember, the life that I live is as a real person, an actual person. Now, the thing is, he's...
Absolutely. Big shout out to Van Lathan. I just gained a tremendous amount of respect for that brother when that whole thing went down, because it's something that goes down in real time. And Ye is he's a magnificent artist, a magnificent person in terms of how he projects, how he controls a room, how he walks into a room and he attracts attention to himself. And, you know, people can get high off their own supply, you know what I mean? And he has a tendency, I think, to do that. He gets high off his own supply and then he grandstands, and then every moment becomes a show. It becomes a display of this character that he's created and not the real person. I think Van Lathan was, you know, speaking to that specifically, and I applaud him. You know, I also want to reiterate, like, I know Ye. I've been in Ye's presence. We've been in each other's presence a tremendous amount of time. We have some of the very same close friends. We're going to have one on pretty soon, hopefully next week, Malik Youssef. Big shout out to him. I met Malik Youssef the same time I met Kanye. Big shout out to Carl Thomas, who's the conduit with all that. Chicago, no doubt, enough respect. But over the years, Kanye has shown me a tremendous amount of respect. I salute him. The last time I saw Ye was at South by Southwest 2014. And I was out there, you know, doing some work around my artistry, but I was also helping do it all in Newark, New Jersey, with a literacy campaign that we were doing in Newark. So I'm like, while I'm at South by Southwest, all the artist friends that I know, let me get some shout outs from them, you know, endorsing the literacy campaign. So, you know, I see a bunch of folks. I run into Ye, you know, embrace, yo, Ye, listen, I'm doing this literacy campaign. We'll do it all in Newark, New Jersey. I need you to give me a shout out. And he goes, Hakeem, you know I'm not an avid reader like that, right? You know I don't really, you know, I don't think reading really is that important. I go, so you don't read checks? You don't read contracts? You don't read The Room? And he gave me that same look that he gave Van Lathan. He gave me and said, all right, I'll do it. And he runs and he does the shout out endorsing the literacy campaign. I'll find that somewhere and post it on another episode of the HAKIM Green Show so you can see it for yourself. But, you know, that again, when you're saying things that really don't make sense in the real world as a real person, you know, we're trying to raise up a generation of people who can think for themselves, who can navigate life's what life has to offer. And that takes being able to read the room. It takes being able to read the environment to understand how you should navigate. When we hear the word read, we think it's always about reading a novel or reading the Bible or reading no, it's about having the information and gaining knowledge through different insights. So when you're reading different authors, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, they're giving you different insights in life that's meant for you to put it on the scale of thinking so you can balance it out to see what works for you, what works you keep, what doesn't work you discard. Being able to read allows you to form pictures in your mind. It allows you to learn how to envision how you want to see the future through using your mind to create. That's why reading is so important. it's like, it's not just about reading the words and the words come out my mouth as I'm reading to you. No, it's being able to, you know, digest, understand, and comprehend what you're reading so you can digest it for yourself, create your picture of what you're reading, create your picture of what you're reading. And that'll help you create that picture in the real world. You know, that's why reading is so important. That's why it was so disheartening to hear, what's the boy's name from Dipset? Jules Santana talk about reading, and reading is not that important. It's more about financial literacy. Brother, literacy is in the word financial literacy. Literacy takes reading. You have to read the numbers. You have to understand the computations. You have to understand the calculations. You have to be able to see it in your mind to be able to come up with the proper conclusions based on the formula presented. You got to be able to read it, and all of that thinking and reading and breaking things down and putting it back together makes for a stronger society, because then people can see things from a different perspective. That engenders empathy in people. You learn. Anyway, we can go on for days. That's a whole nother topic for another time. But, you know, again, a sign that Ye moves around not mentally well, but because he's such a genius and generates money, you know, the powers that be, the same people who he had the beef with, are the same people who are exploiting his antics for their own, you know, own devices. He put up, he did an ad campaign with the Super Bowl, the past Super Bowl, where he was driving traffic to a website. And when you get to the website, there was a T-shirt he was selling with the Nazi symbol on it. And, you know, it's like, you know, he's rebelling against the Jewish community. You know, he's pushing back against the Jewish community. I'm like, okay, it's not the Jewish community, it's Zionist. That's the problem. Zionists own all the platforms he's pushing this messaging out through. So as much as he thinks he's, you know, fighting against the empire, no, he's just making the empire richer. They're just using him until they're done using him, till he's served their purpose and they cut the cord. Now, he's apologized. He's, you know, owned up for his past transgressions. Only God can judge. At the end of the day, only God can judge. I'm just very interested into seeing where Kanye moves from here. And most importantly, him being, you know, healthy and happy, his family being healthy and happy. Like, that's the most important thing from this whole. And then, you know, when it's time for him to come back to the community, we'll embrace him and see what he has to say. Vita says, why? I don't understand why you're asking me why, Vita. Or is there an agenda? Agenda. So put this on pause right fast, because I just want to, you know, so I am a huge admirer of the Black Panther Party. And when I say the Black Panther Party, I mean the Black Panther Party from 1967 in Oakland, California, then to have spread across the nation, New York, Chicago. There were chapters all around the country, LA, all around the country. There were Black Panther Party chapters. And, you know, coming off the heels of the quote unquote civil rights movement, which we connect to Dr. King and I Have a Dream and Peaceful Protest. And, you know, folks oftentimes like to frame that strategy, what it was, as being soft, as being non-revolutionary. But that was entirely just a strategy, y'all. And we have to reframe that discussion about there being a place and a time for everything. That said, coming off the assassination of course, Malcolm X and others, and then, you know, Black Panther Party was formed before the assassination of Dr. King. I believe they were 67 and he was 68. Them being the quote unquote antithesis of what we know about Dr. King, because there's some other things that we don't readily expose about Dr. King, namely him being connected to the street gang community, not only in Chicago, but around the country, organizing them for self-defense and protection. And there's legend that when he was murdered in Memphis, that there was actually some gangs from Chicago who were there to serve as security, and they was packing. You know, as Dr. King wasn't like that, and he had to be convinced by Bertrand Russell to even take the lead at the head of this peaceful protest movement. And Dr. King had to be convinced to give up his guns. It's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. It's only to say that Dr. King oftentimes is misframed as something when it was the peaceful protest movement. I have it. All that was strategy. That said, the Black Panther Party, coming off the heels of this strife, this struggle, this turmoil that happened across the country, the oppression, the repression, police, law enforcement agencies, this whole ICE thing is nothing new. Black community has been experiencing this all the way through since slavery. We know about, police repression and what police forces mean to us. And, the Black Panther Party was formed to put that in check. Our right as, our Second Amendment rights, being able to lawfully carry, open carry at that, which was their right prior to Ronald Reagan changing that law because of the Black Panther Party, and the NRA helping Ronald Reagan do that because of the Black Panther Party, promoting gun ownership, promoting self-defense, not aggression, not rioting, not an attack on government structures. In fact, the opposite, the support of the Constitution and our right to defend ourselves from enemies, foreign and domestic. And in the 60s, the enemy to the Black community was local law enforcement. So, the Black Panther Party laid the groundwork. I have been very supportive of the Panthers over the last 30 years. People who have followed Channel Live know that we released the song along with KRS-One called Free Mumia. Free Mumia, who came out of the movement in Philadelphia, who was also a former Black Panther who's been incarcerated since the 80s for a crime he did not commit, which was the killing of a Philadelphia police officer. He was framed. He was incarcerated in 85, 86, I believe. I might get my facts wrong, 83, 84. Somebody fact check me and put it on the thread. But the Black Panther Party being so integral to the Philadelphia community, them and the MOVE movement. We know about the MOVE bombings. Mayor Good of Philadelphia at the time, a Black mayor, was forced into bombing his own citizens, dropping bombs on a whole city block because, the MOVE movement owning their properties and living life the way they saw fit was a scare to the white Philadelphia community and law enforcement, and they were targeted and set upon, and their homes were bombed, y'all. A helicopter flown over top of the block, the city blocks, and a bomb was released, and they were firebombed out, and then the victims of the bombing running to escape the flames were shot as they came out, and then the survivors were jailed and imprisoned for a long period of time. Big shout out to Mike Africa Jr., who's the son of the revolutionary Mike Africa from MOVE, Ramona Africa. Big shout out to Pam Africa, who's an elder in Philadelphia, still doing the work, always on the move. And big shout out to Russell Schultz Jr., son of Russell Maroon Schultz, former Black Panther in Philadelphia. So there's a strong Black Panther cadre still in Philadelphia, elders who are still doing the work, been doing the work, have a long legacy of doing the work under the banner of, Black Panther, the Black Panther Party, MOVE, and other organizations in the Philadelphia community. They're not the only ones, have never been the only ones. The Muslim community, of course, they're the Nation of Gods and Earths in Philadelphia. There's tons of organizations in The Moorish community is in Philadelphia strong. So it's always us doing the work. But more recently, we've had a brother, he calls himself Chairman Paul Birdsong, and he was looking to reignite organization under the Black Panther Party. He claimed that he was validated by another Panther who I believe is currently on the West Coast, who gave him permission and put the battery in his back to do the work under the banner of the Black Panther Party. And he has been doing a lot of work over the last 5 years strong, but I think it goes back a little bit further than that. So I'm just catching on to the brother over the last 3 weeks to a month. I'm seeing the posts go up as it has to do with his challenging of ICE, but standing on the law, standing on principle, standing on his right to open carry, which he does all day, every day. I've seen various videos of him interacting with law enforcement and him standing on his rights and him schooling police officers as to what the rights are and what he's allowed to do and say and operate and engage. And he always comes out victorious in his encounters with law enforcement. Always. Philadelphia PD, I've seen him interact with, regular beat cops. I've seen him engage with white shirts who tend to be, upper brass with the badges. And I've seen them stand down each and every time. I've seen them go, you're right, sir. You got that off. You got that off. All right, we gonna be out, And the brother, it's inspiring to see. Like it's really inspiring to me because of my fascination and admiration with the original Black Panther Party and knowing the work that they put in Oakland and Chicago. Big shout out to Fred Hampton. Big shout out to Fred Hampton Jr., who's out there in Chicago doing a lot of great work. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., no doubt. Big shout out to him. And big shout out to, my big bro, Daruba bin Wahad, who's out there probably in Africa right now. But he's was a member of the Panther 21 case, co-defendants with Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom. If you know about the Panther 21 case, it was the largest state trial in the history of the state of New York at the time. This happened in 1971, I believe. Don't get my facts right. Let me get my facts right. If I need to be corrected, please do it in the comments. I'll be checking for it. I want to be right and exact. But Daruba's the big bro. I got introduced to Daruba in 1989 when he was, right before he was exiting. I was a part of an organization called the Campaign to Free Black Political Prisoners and Prisoners of War. Activism was strong in New York and the tri-state area. Me and my crew, my homies, we were knee deep in it, doing that work, writing letters to incarcerated Black Panthers and BLA members, going to visit Black Panthers and BLA members, sending care packages to Black Panthers and BLA, Black Liberation Army members, just really brushing up on the Black nationalist revolutionary spirit of the 60s and the 70s. Tapping into that is how I really got, understanding of the Black Panther Party. So I say all I have to say, to see it in the form of, Chairman Birdsong, Paul Birdsong, was inspiring to me, but I wanted to see where the chips fell. And talking to my comrades in Philadelphia who, are extensions of that Philadelphia Black Panther Party legacy, they were like, Hakeem, tread lightly, my bro. Though he claims he's got validation from here, we not really all the way co-signed yet. We need to talk to the brother to see what the real agenda is, see how things need to be, maybe directed, corrected, and what have you. And apparently that went down last weekend, and here's the video. Thank you, Vita.
As everyone knows, I'm Paul Birdsong. I got a message from Aaron Dixon today saying that he no longer supports us. That after he gave me orders to make a video saying that him and other members were coming, that he withdrew his support. And that he said that this situation is unimportant to him, even though my comrades have risked their lives and spent thousands of hours of their time and dollars and life standing behind a cause, He said he's going to make a statement saying no one has the right to call himself a Black Panther going forward. I told him to make sure that he put in that statement that he did, in fact, give us the right to call ourselves that, because I still have the messages where he did, just in case he doesn't. And I put in there also, make sure that you put in there that Emory Douglas did give us the right to wear that emblem, because I still have the messages where that happened too. But as it stands, because of that, because of me and my comrades risking our lives and all the heat that we went under, because of the counter-revolutionary practices, because we don't believe in black nationalism, like Bobby Seale said in the video that I shared on my page earlier, that black nationalism is acquiesce to racism, and that we don't stand like that, that we're internationalists and intercommunalists, just like Huey Newton said. We will no longer identify with this flag. We will no longer identify ourselves as the Black Panther Party for self-defense. We're going to take OG from the town's advice. We're going to take the name that he decided to put out there. We're going to call ourselves the Black Lion Party for International Solidarity. Reason for the international solidarity is because we will stand with the immigrants. We will stand with the people being terrorized for ICE. We will stand with any oppressed people across the world. We will keep feeding every single day, keep offering food every single day. We will keep patrolling the community with guns. We will keep stopping drug dealers, keep stopping sex traffickers. We will keep stopping police brutality. This little plaque that I got, it says Paul Birdsong, and as a Panther, it says since 2020. I don't regret the work that I've done because it's brought me to this point. But going forward, these Panther patches will no longer be on my uniforms. Me and my comrades stand independent. We are willing to work with any organization that stands for the rights of every living person. Any organization that stands against imperialism, attacking immigrants. Now, if you're out here raping people and killing people and selling drugs and different stuff like that, yeah, deport them. But those people out there that are just working hard, trying to provide for their families, trying to escape the guerrilla warfare and the cartel warfare that's happening in their countries, to come for that promise of the American dream that the United States of America Incorporated lies about, we feel that they shouldn't be bothered, and we're willing to stand beside them to ensure that they're not. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Oh, January 31st, you can still come out. You know, we're willing to sit down and talk about solidarity, sit down and talk about unification, sit down and talk about continuing to work, because ain't nothing stopping this way. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I thought that was very honorable. I thought it was very well said. I appreciated it. At the end of the day, it's about the work. You know, like I said, I talked to my comrades who are, you know, baby Panthers, second and third generation Panthers, and they advised me that, you know, that original group of Panthers from the 60s and 70s have decided collectively that they didn't want anybody to use the, you know, moniker, the Black Panther Party. I know there was some friction between the Black Panther Party and the new Black Panther Party. Malik Zulu Shabazz, who heads that up. There's been, you know, a lot of friction between, you know, the Elder Panthers and the new Black Panther Party about them using that name, the Black Panther Party. So since, you know, that is the case, and the creators of that movement says, you know, we should do something different, then we should, you know, we should pay attention, we should take heed, but we should keep doing the work. And like the brother Chairman Paul Birdsong said, it don't stop. You know, they got a activation set up. They're going to keep doing the work. And, you know, just as a heads up, you know, if you really get into, you know, Panther ideology, the Panther, original Black Panther Party did think internationally. It wasn't just about the struggle amongst Black people here in America. It was about all oppressed people. They always sought out connections and alliances with, you know, the organized white labor movements. Big shout out to Fred Hampton. Once again, you guys have seen the movie about Fred Hampton. You know, it highlights that it wasn't just a Black thing. In order to really move this ball forward, you know, we had to connect all oppressed peoples into movement and into a sustained organizing force with specific goals that benefit all people, whether it's Black, white, the gay and lesbian community. You have tons of content, literature by Huey P. Newton, where he says that loud and clear. So when we talk about Chairman Paul Birdsong, people have been saying, oh, all of a sudden y'all want to step up because it's the immigrants. What about us? What about us? Now, if you watch the video content that the brothers posted with his engagement and interaction with Philadelphia police, it's always in defense of Black people. Like there's like a ton of footage, a ton of content where he's standing up for Black people who have been abused, assaulted by police officers, treated wrong by police officers. And he goes stand out there with the joint right on his chest like, Kyle Rittenhouse did, but he's doing it in a very respectful within the boundaries of the law. Please look it up and you'll see it for yourself. Like it's not just an immigration thing with him. However, because ICE is getting all this attention and ICE is so prevalent in our communities. Thank you.
All power to the people. Hey, listen, check this out. Me and the comrades out here in Northeast Philly, you know why we're here? Because we was told ICE was hopping on the people over here, over at the Brazilian bakery and over here in the neighborhoods. Now, yeah, we came out here and we see like them Sprinter vans parked and all these blacked out vehicles parked, but it's like maybe they in their hotels getting some sleep or something, or maybe they knew that the Black Panther Party was coming, Like I said before, and like I say it again, and like Huey Newton said back in the day, the Black Panther Party is an internationalist group. So we stand with all oppressed people, no matter what your ethnic background is, no matter what your cultural background is. We stand with all oppressed people. So a war on the immigrants of the United States of America is a war on everybody in America. It ain't just a war on people who just came here, or even people who've been here for a while and couldn't get their green card for whatever reason. See, they couldn't get their green card for the last 20, 30 years, but you've been enjoying their food, though. You've been enjoying taking your car to them instead of taking it to the Midas or something because it's going to be cheaper, though, right? But now they out here getting chased around and killed, and you won't do nothing about it. Hey, dig this. ICE ain't just coming after us. They just killed an unarmed Black man in L.A. But you sitting up here acting like, oh, that's not our fight. Be real. All power to the people.
Right. The greatest resource is human resource. The greatest resource is human resource, and human resource is worldwide. It's global. These cell phones that we use, the technology, the minerals, the elements that make that a go come from Africa, come from South America. It comes from, the southern nations of the world, the more darker skinned nations of the world. Most of our food products come from the darker skinned nations of the world. Our imperialistic natured government goes and mines the resources from these other countries, oppress these people, keep these nations and economies around the world disabled for a reason, so they can extract the resources, including human resource, for its own profiteering. And then when these people seek refuge, they come here to enjoy the fruits of what Black and brown people essentially have created, because don't get it twisted, Black and brown people built this country. Matter of fact, Black and brown people were here before the Europeans were here. Everything they get from this nation was really already established before it's like they just came from where they came from and moved into what we already had going on. And that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. I don't want to get to that. I'm just only trying to make the point that when we see that our fight is international, our fight is about labor, it's about poor people across the world. It strengthens us here in America. When we disconnect ourselves from our natural allies, because they're in the same position we're in, or that we're trying not to be in, you see why, fighting for, not so much fighting for immigration, but fighting for human beings having equal rights, which is what the law says, that all human beings have the right to due process. all human beings have the right to due process. And, the first law of nature is self-preservation. That's the first law of nature, period, is self-preservation. So, I say all that to say that once you see you are united in struggle, it makes your individual struggle more powerful. Lastly, organization. We have to get organized. No matter if it's Black Panthers, 5% Nation of God's and Earth, Nation of Islam, Christian, Muslim, Hebrew Israelite. I don't care what organization you join or you're a part of. You are only as powerful as your organization. So get organized. And I think thus far, Brother Birdsong has been just showing the example of organization. But it has to continue. He has to build it. He has to show and prove. Time will tell us all. I'm not saying he's the answer. I'm not saying we should follow him. We shouldn't follow anybody. By the way, I wanted to say this. Hold on one second, Vita. I really wanted to say this about being a follower and being a leader. If you're following anybody, you're in bad shape. You shouldn't be following anybody. You should know where you're going. And then you use people as signposts for direction. They don't always have to be intentionally telling you where to go. You should be able to judge where they are in their thinking and where they seem to be going. And if that's on the way to your destination, then you follow along and you play your part and you get in position and you help and you support but you don't necessarily have to follow Brother Birdsong. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you, as you pay attention to how he organizes, if he seems to be going in the direction that you're going in, it might be beneficial for you to ally with him. And if not, so be it. You do your thing, let him do his thing. But I'm looking for bigger and better and greater things from the brother because he seems to be committed to the work, which is the most important aspect of this. Okay, Vita, I'm ready. Bad Bunny is the halftime performance at the Super Bowl. Bad Bunny is the performer for the halftime of the Super Bowl. Last year, they did Kendrick Lamar. This year, they do Bad Bunny. Big shout out to Jay-Z, a.k.a. Sean Carter of Rock Nation. Big shout out to them because they really keep providing, I think, proper entertainment. When Jay first got the gig and being the program director for the halftime entertainment at the Super Bowl, I was, really, the whole Kaepernick thing. We passed kneeling. I was a little, come on, Jay, what we talking about? We passed kneeling. Cap sacrificed his whole career. You kind of threw him under the bus. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. However, that made me go, okay, what is Jay going to do with this opportunity? And I would have to say, so far, so good. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's the Super Bowl, it's halftime, it's America, it's capitalism, it's, so it's in the context of all of that, y'all, is what I'm saying. He gets an A+ for me. I mean, he gave us Dre, Snoop, 50 in them with Kendrick doing that whole demonstration was right and exact. He gave us last year. He gave us Kendrick Lamar, which was powerful. The messaging beyond, within that, embedded in the show itself, was amazing and had us talking for days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks. Of course, Kendrick was in the middle of his beef with Drake, so that had us all captivated. But to get to the A from, and now we move on to Bad Bunny. And the reason why this is so interesting is because of what we're dealing with Donald Trump and immigration and ICE, and Bad Bunny being Puerto Rican, and that just on another level makes no sense because Puerto Rico is a part of America, y'all. It is a part of the USA. It's a protectorate of the USA. So but it seems that a big portion of the United States populace doesn't understand that Puerto Ricans are Americans too. There's been a lot of pushback on Bad Bunny being the halftime entertainment, So for context, the NFL, Old Boys Network, very white bread, very old money. A lot of these owners, if not all of these owners, donated to the Trump campaign. The Trump, I think that actually, I do think that the Seattle Seahawks owner did not donate to Trump. I got to fact check that. But the NFL itself is very right-wing driven, right? To have Bad Bunny as the halftime entertainment is kind of snubbing the nose at that audience, it seems to me. Very interesting. Jay-Z, once again, taking a chance with the entertainment, making a political statement. The political statement that he's making, in my estimation, is the right one to make. He's standing on the right side of history with this opportunity. And, initially I was very skeptical. I thought, we tired of the sellouts. We got too many sellouts selling out. Don't sell your ass, ladies and gentlemen. But in my opinion, if you disagree, please let me know in the comment section and we'll talk about it. But in my estimation, thus far, Jay-Z is doing his thug thizzle. Now, is Bad Bunny wearing a dress at his Super Bowl halftime show? Here's what we know. And I can't really read that. This is the baller alert. As Bad Bunny gears up for his headlining shot at the Super Bowl halftime show. Man, it's just crazy out here. I gotta get these glasses right. About 2 weeks ahead of Super Bowl. Okay, so apparently there's rumors that he's gonna come out in a dress. Right now, we know, there's a push, or so they say. There's a push from the other side, if you know what I mean. LGBTQ community, seems to have a lot of influence on mainstream America and how they're able to get in front of ears and eyeballs. And if Bad Bunny is going to wear a dress at this year's Super Bowl, is that pushing the wrong agenda? Let me not say wrong agenda. You got to be careful. Is that pushing the other agenda? Let me not say other agenda. That's still it. Is that pushing? Remember, the Black Panther Party was about uniting with all oppressed people. So we got to. However, it's just another example of a push, an agenda push. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. What I will say is that you need to put it on your scale of understanding. Take what works for you and what does not, leave it and keep it moving. Every community, has value. And every community, when organized, can exert their value and their power on everything. Don't get it twisted. So I'll be open and honest. I'm glad Bad Bunny is performing for the, I hate to say Latino community because it's such a nuanced conversation about what they call themselves, what they should be called. Hispanic, that's another kind of, But original people in all its shades and variations, I love to see us being showcased and highlighted. Sometimes, as an artist, you do things to make a statement and just to push the envelope. Is there an agenda with, Black and brown men being made to wear a dress or pushing the dress agenda? I think that there's a lot to be said to that. Yes, I do. I think there's a lot to be said that. Do I think that it's every single time it happens? No, I don't think it's every single time it happens. I think sometimes when it's done, it's just for attention. It's just to snub their nose at a particular sector of society. And then if you give it more attention than it deserves, it kind of defeats your pushback. So, he's one of the top artist in the world, if not the top artist in the world. His catalog is sick. He's going to have an entirely different fan base and market interested in the NFL and the Super Bowl. He's going to bring tons of attention. Now, that's another discussion in and of itself, because as Black people and brown people and how we're being treated by mainstream America, we need to be putting our brakes on to support a lot of these platforms, be it the Super Bowl, these TV companies, Disney, and Target, all the way down the line. A long list of folks that we need to. But Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, has a knack for providing entertainment that forces us all to lock in. So I'm going to say give the dress a pass this time, ladies and gentlemen. Check in to the Bad Bunny performance during the halftime of the New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks and see what the world has in store for us during that time. Vita, I sent you an article to your phone. I don't know if you're able to pull it up. Trump has apparently suggested or said outright that he's going to be sending ICE to the Super Bowl to weed out illegal immigrants. And we know that's just a good way for him to say accost Black and brown people. That's what he really means. And you know, white people who stand in the way. So just know that as we see. So, you know, I think we should all watch out for the Super Bowl for a number of different reasons, not just the game itself, but the politics that surround the Super Bowl. And, you know, keep in mind, this is the NFL, man. This is, you know, this is a white man's platform. This is a white man's operation. And they love to remind us that this is their thing. This is their little thing that they just included us in as entertainment, whether we're playing or halftime entertainment, you know. But to be able to politically say things that we wouldn't normally be able to say, or we'd be getting pushed back and not getting the support, not getting the financial push, I think there's a lot to say about that, and that's positive for me. Again, big shout out to Jay-Z, Rock Nation. That was dope, or this is dope. And yeah, I think that's all I needed to say about that. The HAKIM Green Show. I freestyled this entire show. Started at 8:30, ended up damn near at 10. Ran my mouth for a good hour and a half. Let me know how I did in the comments. I'm going to do one more thing. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Vita. Department of Homeland Security confirms ICE agents will be conducting enforcement operations at Super Bowl. You know, my Roman numerology is kind of off, y'all. Sorry about that. Planning to camp outside venue waiting for migrants. Now, on Madism Sports yesterday, we talked about the possibilities. It hadn't been confirmed for us yet, but right here, it's confirmed that there are going to be ICE that is going to have a presence at this year's Super Bowl. So sad day in America when things like this are happening, but this is where we are. Everybody keep your head on the swivel, stay safe, you know, travel in groups, make sure your phone is handy, you know, report anything that you see, that, you know, that seems to be right now one of the most effective ways to push back on this repressive regime is to film everything, so you know the rest of America can support when they see it. But yeah, this is a good one. The HAKIM Green Show. I know what I wanted to do. I have to do this. You gotta forgive me for the shameless plug, but it is my show, so it's only right that I market and promote myself. We got HakimGreen.com, HakimGreen.com, which is also madisminc.com, madizm.com. And, you know, I want you guys to take a stop over there. Check us out. We got some things happening. Where we at? We got some things happening. Got music, new music up there. And we got merch. You know, I'm pushing Madism, hard body. And I need you guys to go on over there and support the clothing. Let me enlarge this so you guys can get. The baseball tees, the Madism baseball tees. We have the muscle shirts. And we have, of course, don't sell your ass t-shirts for sale, because it's very important in this day and age that you do not sell your ass. Trust me on that one, y'all. Keep that ass intact. You don't want it all blown out of frame You know what I'm saying? You do that, you might not be able to come back. You know what I mean? Do not sell your ass. Don't sell your ass. You can get that at HAKIMGreen.com, madisminc.com. Hit the shop button over there and get yourself right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Share this stream, y'all. Share this stream with your folks. This is going to remain up on the Hakim Green, on the Madism platform on YouTube. Also, the Madism platform, the Hakim Green platform on Facebook. Don't forget to follow the Hakim Green Show. Don't forget to follow Hakim Green on YouTube, IG, Madism on YouTube, IG, 24 Hours of Peace on YouTube, IG, Facebook, all handles. Also, don't forget to hit 24 Hours of Peace, Inc.com. That's my other company. And, we do 24 Hours of Peace, the festival in Newark, New Jersey every year. That's, 20,000 people plus, bringing out all your favorite artists, pushing peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. That's what that's about. Stay locked in, y'all. We got some fire interviews teed up for you real soon. We had Big Said on the Madism Sports Show yesterday. He tapped in. Make sure you check out that episode on Madism Sports. That was hilarious. Big Said got all the jokes, namely his face. But we'll get into that another time, y'all. Big up. Hakim Green, we out.